I switched from Michiel to godot sometime in 2024, and one of the things I was upset about was the missing Emunator playing. Having the ability to fly around the surrounding scene and change anything is very useful, and a lot of people agree with this sentiment. There is even a very popular proposal on this topic. Of course, godot has some features like remote scene view and the new embedded window stuff that has object picking, on which Hilderan did some great work, but it's not ideal for a lot of reasons. Inspector looks weird, you can't fly around your scene in the editor, it updates in discrete steps, and so on and so forth. It didn't stop me from using godot, but it bugged me the whole time, and one day I thought, godot is open source. I can do this myself if I want to, and no one can stop me. So yeah, I took the matters into my own hands and patched up a way to run godot games in editor. I will now talk about the process of making this mod. I'm not actually sure how to call it, but if you want to try it for yourself, instead of listening to me breaking everything I touch, skip to this timecode. So, why doesn't godot have this feature? As far as I can tell, mostly because of stability issues. Making an infinite loop while the game is running in editor will freeze the editor too. And how did they fix this issue? I didn't. Sorry about that. I just really want this feature at all costs. Ignoring that, how did I make it? Well, the only reason this is even possible is the fact that the editor is the godot game itself. It's a little bit more special than a typical project though, and it messes a lot with different servers and nodes of the scenes you edit. None of the scripts run, which is good except the part where it's actually what I wanted to do now. Well, actually, there is a way to run code in editor, 2 scripts, and also editor plugins, which allow you to extend the editor in pretty amazing ways. If you get the same idea as me, first thing you might try is using the tools you're given by default, which means... Using this plugin magic, we can make a new panel with a stoppy word container, put some nodes in it, and assuming the scripts from Access tool, we will get a game running in editor. Well, apart from it being partially broken, there is also a part where you don't really want to write script in a project Marcus tool. Unfortunately, this is as far as it goes. Editor disables scripting, which means that all non-tool code technically doesn't even exist in it. All scripts are placeholders. This is unless we are willing to mess around with the engine's code, which I'm willing to do, since I don't have better things to do. The process of finding everything that needs to be fixed in order to make it all work is kinda slow when you don't know what's even happening in the engine's code. But the method I used is as follows. First, find something related to the problem. With scripting, it's something like GScript the CVP or C# script the CVP. One trick that works if you're searching for a balanced code or something is searching by the text you can see. You'll find a ton of translation files, but you will also find the relevant code. Or try searching for some related keywords. For example, word script is in the name of both files. Next step is to continue searching around for clues. Here I found a suspicious constant shade function, which, if run in editor, checks if the script is marked as tool or if the scripting is enabled. As we found out, scripts don't do anything if they are not tool, so the next assumption that the problem is the disabled scripting. Now we can just check why it's disabled. Script server contains a set scripting enabled function. You can just search for its usages and find this block of code. Now it's a matter of commenting it out, rebuilding the engine, and repeating this process for every single broken piece. Actually, sometimes it helps to look at what you're patching. After I found out that the recast nodes aren't after updating an editor, I've gone and patched every editor check of every physics node, completely oblivious to the fact that all of them just used one function to check if they're running an editor. Yeah, it was the easiest calling set editor hint. And patching things that broke because it's cool. Also, it's probably not a good idea to mess around with the actual scene open in editor. Because we want to have the ability to edit the scene while playing it, the nodes in the editor must be the same nodes as the ones we are using for playing. This requirement is easy to fulfill, because all the nodes we see in the editor function just like any other node and are contained in a scene tree. But if we use them, we'll be just breaking everything we touch, so we need a way to isolate our running scene. Meet editor tabs. They dynamically pop in and out nodes in the scene tree when you switch them. I only need to expose a function to close the scene. Everything else is handled by the editor. But it's neat though, I needed to restrict things like switching tabs and saving the edit place scene because otherwise it would break. Also, stuff that godot does when launching a project but not when you are in the editor includes loading input maps and auto loads. Another thing that needs to be done manually now. Thankfully for this, I just had to search for the relevant init code and paste it into my custom engine module. Next is the part where apparently global constants and name global constants are different things that are samey but yet assign different values, which is why I had to bang my head against the wall when Kagita was using some auto-tree auto-load that spawns from who knows where and code segfaults. It was the editor code that spawned it in a named global constant. Guess which one my code field. Debugging segfaults is a pain too, because GDB doesn't see frames when opening core dumps, and GDB being attached slows the engine to a crawl. Weirdest part is that core dump still does steal the frames of the stack trace. with some tooling work, and by some I mean that I had to mess around with containers, input and stuff quite a lot, and not gonna lie, that was pretty annoying work, we can run some games. Well, I mean we also need to patch some Sentry functions. Actually, Sentry is a big issue. It's the thing that does all the processing and manages the scene tree, and making new ones basically running a game. Thus, editors in the game are not very good isolated. So, if a game code happens to pause the scene tree, the editor will get paused too. Same goes for quitting, slowing down the time, and also the root node. In particular, if a game adds something to the tree root, it will be added right to the editor's tree, and this is one thing I failed at fixing. Or so I thought at the time. While writing the script for this video, I tried running Kagita and was met with an unusable mess. Of course I can't leave it broken like that. The problem is as follows. Kagita's scene manager adds the newly loaded scene to the scene tree's root, aka editor's root node, and obviously that causes everything to break down spectacularly. It's kinda fun actually. So, to fix that, we need to somehow return edit place scene root instead of the actual scene tree. But annoyingly, root is a window node and I use the sub-viewport as my root node to render the scene and show it in the UI. I briefly tried to fix the root by all the scariest and dangerous methods, but I failed. Maybe for the best, because, just maybe, I can replace the edit play root with a window. Actually, it seems that they can't. What a shame. Time to sweep the problem under the rug. Actually, it seems that they can. I think I should quit being a developer. So yeah, somewhere between now and 1 year ago, I became smarter and managed to create a window. Amazing achievement. At least it works, and with a bit of fake docking trickery, I basically remade the embedded game window. Also, because it's now a window, I can easily add an undocking button. Cool. The root node can be faked just with the game by replacing the getter function with our own, saving the editor from being very confused by the changed root. And the other scene tree things are fixable too, either by ignoring the command or by faking some values, like I did with scene swapping. Just change the current scene node and the root. Again. Another thing that had to be fixed was shared resources. Because of the resource cache, running scene would modify the resources used by the edited scene, and that's obviously very bad. The solution I first came up with was disabling the cache. You can imagine that it made everything work awful. Not only did it annex the loading times, but it also broke some scripts. I'm not sure how disabling the cache could break them, but it did. The second solution I came up with was just cleaning the cache. Not ideal either, but it works fine, so... And with that, my plan worked almost perfectly. Almost. Because I had to continue debugging weird issues, with errors that don't make any sense and are fixed by moving one line of code. But after that, I could finally run any project I throw at it. Cogito. GD Quest platformer demo. My GMTK Game Jam submission. TPS demo. And it just worked. Of course, I didn't tell you about every little change I made to the engine, but all of the code is open source and you can look at my commits if you want to. And you can try it for yourself. I prebuilt the engine fork on version 4.5 and put everything you'll need on GitHub, so the only thing you'll need to do is put the add-on into your project and run it on the fork. Do backup anything you run this on beforehand, at least with your preferred version control, because edit play is very much in alpha and you will find bugs that I did not find. And yeah, that's about it. Like and subscribe if you like the video. Bye.